Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We can get everyone to please have their seats. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. My name is John Norman, and I'm the representative for District 2 for Midland City Council. Before we get started, just let a few more people get in here. But before we get started, I'd like to ask Pastor Johnson of Goodwill Missionary Baptist Church to please come up and say a prayer for us. If you don't mind standing.
Let us all bow in a word of prayer. Most holy and everlasting Father, we thank you, God, for an opportunity to come together, God. But Father, we ask you right now, while we are together, God, for a reason, for a purpose, God, we ask you in all that is being said and all that is being heard, Lord God, let it be done decent and God. Lord God, I pray that this atmosphere, God, right now, be under your control, God. Father, we ask you to bless all that represent to the community. Bless all of those that represent as elected officials, law enforcement, God, our mayor and all, and also in our district, Brother John Norman, God, and we ask you to bless everyone, every voice that is spoken tonight. Lord God, let it be clear and let it be heard. Only you, God, can control all things that is said and heard. But Lord God, I ask a special request that at the end of this meeting there is an understanding on the side of the community and an understanding on the side of our law enforcement, of our districts, of our mayor and everyone else, that when we leave this place, you are the answer to all things, God. And we ask you to plant it into the minds, the hearts, and the spirits. We thank you in advance. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, if we could again find our seats as quickly as possible. Again, we have an overflow room there in the back, and our facilitators should be able to show you where that is if you need a seat. We don't want people standing around in the background, and because we got to keep an account on how many people are in here. If there are any pastors or other city staff, would you please come to the front? We're asking that you just please come front and center. We have reserved seats in the front. Any pastors and other city staff. Thank you. Pastor Johnson, thank you for that prayer to open up. So I just want to introduce the people on stage here in no particular order, but everyone's to my left. But we have at-large Councilman Mr. Michael Trost. We have Assistant City Manager Robert Patrick. We have the mayor, Mayor Payton, Patrick Payton. And we have DA Laura Nodoff. We have our Chief of Police, Seth Herman. Then we also have Assistant City Manager Morris Williams. And like I said, I'm John Norman. So tomorrow begins today. Let there be no question that the concerns of black and brown communities are real. All across the nation, we see example after example of behavior that stokes fear, anxiety, outrage, and defensiveness about equal treatment under the law. As recent as this week, we've seen tragic, gut-wrenching, and fatal misuses of authority. Racial bias and prejudice exist. There's no tiptoeing around it. But where there is trust and mutual respect, communities thrive and feel safe. That's why releasing the videos of Mr. Anders' incident was so important to building that trust. But releasing the videos was only the first step. Our role here today is to help bring healing to our community and begin building a stronger relationship between the City of Midland and the residents of District 2. And not only the residents of District 2, but the entire City of Midland. By listening to and understanding the raw emotions surrounding the issues we see on TV and in our community, it is our hope that we can rebuild the relationships. Rebuild the relationships needed to ensure that situations like the Anders incident, or God forbid, even worse, don't happen in Midland. Me being a Christian man, I'll leave you with a verse. This verse comes from the book of Proverbs, chapter 2, verses 1 through 6. It's the Amplified Version. My son, if you will receive my words and treasure my commandments within you, so that your ear is attentive to skillfully and godly wisdom, and apply your heart to understanding, seeking it conscientiously, and striving for it eagerly. Yes, if you cry out for insight and lift up your voice for understanding, if you seek skillfully and godly wisdom as you would silver, and search for her as you would hidden treasures, then you will understand the reverent fear of the Lord. That is, worshiping him and regarding him is truly awesome, and discover the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives skillfully and godly wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. So we're going to begin, and before I introduce the moderator for this evening, I just want to stress. I know it's been a lot of things put out there, leading up to this event, and I want to stress that this particular event is not specifically about the Tye Anders case. Although we know it may come up because it is a situation that we're dealing with here, not only here in Midland, Texas, but around the country. We're dealing with situations like these. And so we just want to make that clear. But we are here to voice our opinions and our concerns. And us as city leaders, we're here to listen. We're here to listen to those concerns and listen not only to respond, but listen to understand. And I think we should be doing the same thing. We want to do, like the pastor said, things decent and in order. I want to emphasize that. There's a certain way of doing things, and we want to do it decent and in order. And I hope that y'all trust me that I will delegate that and push things forward like we need to do. Okay? So it will be a time for everyone to speak. I hope everyone saw the cards out front to ask their questions. If you have questions for any of these people on the panel, and then there were other cards if you have what we call experiences, life experiences. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Shirley Howard, And she's going to be our moderator this evening, and assisting her will be Miss Lynn Rogers. And I want everybody to give Miss Shirley Howard a hand, if you would. Today is her birthday. Today is her birthday. She told me she was 29, but you know, I don't know.
Good evening. Good evening, lights.
Good evening.
All right, then. I know y'all can do that. Again, I am Shirley Howard, and I'm going to be your moderator, mediator, whatever you want to call me on tonight. And you know I wear many hats in this community. However, it's a pleasure for Ms. Councilman Norman to ask me to do this. However, again, appreciate him asking me to do this. But you know, it's my duty as a leader in this community to do it. And I feel honored that you all have come out to solve a problem that's possibly in our community, that we know is in our community, and to help come up with the rationale. A few things, as he stated, there are cards outside. If you want to speak with the issue or something you've had encounter with the police department, you do need to get a card outside and put your name on it and say you want to speak. As well as that card should be a yellow piece of paper that is pertinent, that you need to sign on and give it back to us because for the records and by law. So, and on the other, we got two phases. The first phase is going to be questions to the panel, to the councilman, whomever. But please put on your question who you would like to answer it. Otherwise, Councilman Norman will be answering it. Okay, a few other things is the restroom out the door to your left. If you need to be excused, again, we ask everyone that is not media to please take a seat. I believe fire marshal's here as well, and we must obey the law, guys. So please take a seat if you're not media at this time. Lynn Rogers is going to help me do the questions, and I want to make sure if your question, we might not get to all of them, but we're going to try real hard to get to all the questions. However, when your question is read and the answer is provided, if it's not what you want to hear or you think that they didn't understand what you have written, please raise your hand and we will backtrack. Okay? Are there any questions at this time?
Okay. The first question, I believe, is to the Chief of Police. What role does city management have in ensuring that our police department serves our community fairly and respectfully? That's actually to our city leaders. Okay, this is going to be answered by Morris Williams.
Thank you. And our council members, thank you for being here. I think our entire city council is here for an evening meeting. So first and foremost, I thank you guys for coming out, Mayor and your council. Also, thank you to John Norman for hosting this meeting, and thank you, pretty much repeating what he said, thank you for everybody that came out tonight for this important issue. What role do we have as management? And Robert and I at the table here, and then Courtney, our city manager. Our role is the police department is one of our departments that works for us, and we manage them. So when there is any type of incident or anything like that that has any high caliber, it will come before us at some point. And our major job is to support them. That's number one. And we want to do that. And the way that we give them 100% support is by ensuring that they do the right thing. And I really believe in my heart that we have a chief of police that's sitting next to me, and his rank and file, that his deputy chiefs and his lieutenants that do a very good job of policing themselves. And I'm pretty confident in that. Since the incident almost 2 weeks ago, we've had numerous conversations with the chief and his rank and file, and how we do things, and ensuring that we do them the right way. So the answer to your question is, what role do we have? We are the oversight of the police department, and we ensure that the citizens, because we 100% support our police department, but we also, and I'll steal this one from you, Mayor Payton, we also 100% support our citizens as well. So we have a twofold job there, and the best way that I can in confidence make sure that all of you people all of us are taken care of in the community is by making sure that they do the right thing, and they take an oath to do that. That's the answer that I have.
Thank you. Okay. This question is for Chief Herman. We see things going in the direction of the climate that places such as Minneapolis, Minnesota have been facing for some time now. We do not want to reach that point. I feel that we need to approach and address these situations with a different mentality, a change in paradigm, if you will. What sort of changes can we expect from you and the Midland PD in order to achieve this?
The changes that I'd like to implement, and please understand, folks, I'm not going to tell you anything new that nobody hasn't already done, thought of, or discussed with you. Our goal is to reach out to our community, and not just certain segments of our community, but our entire community. And I apologize because we've been kind of shorthanded the last couple of years, 40 to 50 officers down at a time, and so we've had to take people from those community relations positions, and we haven't been able to devote as much time to reaching out to everyone and just having conversations. But we're trying to bring those numbers up so that we do have that time, rather than our law enforcement duties, but our community action duties. To me, this is about dialogue, just like today, folks. We can be mad about things, but if we don't discuss them, they aren't fixed. And this is not a problem of me or you, it's an us. We have to come together as a community, as a people, and understand that we are all from Midland. We're not black, we're not white, we're not Hispanic, we're not male, female. The demographic doesn't matter. We are Midlanders. And I can tell you 100%, what happened in Minneapolis is an atrocity. You're not going to find an officer, and let's just touch upon that. You're not going to find an officer with the Midland Police Department who does not look at that with the sheer disdain and disgust and anger. Because those actions reflect on my personnel, on me. I didn't choose this profession to overpower people or to be over people or to be cruel to people or to harm people. Just like the men and women who serve this department. We did this profession, we got into this profession, this calling, to help people. And what transpired in Minneapolis is the antithesis of what we are. So, I'm sorry, I'm a little long-winded. I'm short but long-winded. In answer to your question, my goal and the goal of our department is to open this dialogue, and not just once, not just for this event, not just for a follow-up event, but daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it takes, so that your fears, your concerns, your angers are discussed with us before they become so big then that it can't be resolved, that it's just a yelling match. Does that answer your question?
I think you did a great job answering. Okay. The next question is also for Chief Herman. Is it the policy or practice of the Midland Police Department to place 2 arrested persons in the back of the same squad car, even if opposite gender, If so, why?
That's dependent on situations. As long as people are monitoring those individuals and it's not for an extended period of time, and if they're connected in some way, familial or friendship, and there's not a concern for some kind of assault of that nature, then there's no violation of policy. Now, once it goes beyond a certain point, or when we're unable to post somebody to monitor them throughout the entire event, then yes, obviously we would separate them, especially if they don't know each other, yes, undoubtedly. But for their safety, as long as we're monitoring them, again, there's a familial tie, we don't have a concern of assault one on the other, then yes, we will do that periodically.
What specifically is being done at MPD to ensure racial profiling is not tolerated?
And this is mandated by the government as well. Every year, there's a racial profiling report that is conducted by a third-party entity. And it's actually a professor from the University of North Texas who's doing ours. And that information is made public as well as submitted to the City Council for review, and it's discussed. This happens on a yearly basis, but beyond that, internally, what we've done is on top of the government regulations that require us to notate every traffic contact, every proactive enforcement traffic contact with our citizens, there has to be a notation that's logged, categorized, and maintained that shows the race, ethnicity, gender, if there's a violation, what the outcome of the stop was, a number of different facets that we maintain, and that is reported not only to the government, both state and federal, but also to our moderator at UNT, who compiles that information and evaluates it, basically to ensure that we are not negatively impacting our community by using unnecessary bias against our citizens. Now, in addition to that, you're going to get tired of hearing this. My wife does. We also independently monitor our personnel. And when I say that, our first-line supervisors, our sergeants, daily review hours upon hours of video from traffic stops. They ride with their personnel to monitor their activities. They review their reports. And we do periodic training based specifically on police ethics and racial profiling and bias. So there's multiple facets to this and multiple layers to us ensuring that we are not violating our ethics by unfairly treating our citizens through bias.
This question goes along with that. You had mentioned that there is a report, a racial report, or I don't know your terminology. Let me just ask it. Is there a 2019 racial profiling report similar to the 2018 one reported in MRT?
There is. And in fact, because of COVID-19, unfortunately, as everybody knows, that's stymied a lot of processes at the government level. The state basically shut down all operations from a TCOL standard. That information will be available soon online, but we actually received our report from our UNT professor, and that has been forwarded to our city council representatives for evaluation. So that's actually in the city manager's office as we speak right now. So yes, ma'am, it will be available online. I don't have a specific time frame from TCOL as to when it will be posted, but unfortunately, every city throughout the state is dealing with the same problem. There are no numbers for 2019 as of yet, and that's because of COVID right now.
This question says, was Tye given a drug test, alcohol test, etc.? If not, why? Was it because he has relatives on your force? Who was at the scene?
I can't talk to the specifics of the case. I don't know of any relatives. Those tests are for specific instances, and there's probable cause that's required in order to obtain a warrant to gather somebody's breath or blood. Those factors did not exist at that time, and I'll just leave it at that. That was not a suspicion at that time.
This question says, was the young lady arrested?
No, ma'am, she was not.
This question, why did the most current situation receive more publicity and attention from the City of Midland NPD compared to the Hispanic woman beaten near La Mission and the minor kicked in the chest on Florida?
I don't think that's his to answer. That's what I told him. That's not his to answer. We don't dictate what gets the publicity. I think the publicity was put out by the public.
This question is related. Are you going to release the body cam or car video of the kid being kicked, just like the Anders incident? Is an ongoing investigation. Videos were released for Anders. Why not the kid being kicked?
Let me answer this, folks, and I'm not going to get into specifics simply because we still have criminal allegations that have been levied, and we're still in the process of that. From the judiciary, and the DA note office is sitting obviously right next to me. What I will say is this: no. I am not suggesting by any means that those two events are not as egregious to members of our society. Well, undoubtedly, we are not lessening the impact of one to the other. This decision was based off of a number of concerns that were brought to us by our community and a lot of issues that we were dealing with as far as threats against various people, things that obviously were beyond our control. And once it gets to that point, a decision has to be made at levels obviously above mine. What is it most important for our community? Is it protecting our citizens? Is it protecting the case, the investigative case? Or is it putting specific information out that generally we don't release? So that decision was not based off of whether one thing was more egregious than the other, perceived as more egregious than the other. It simply had to do with different dynamics that were impacted on each incident.
So both, that was my question. That was my question. Both cases have criminal allegations or criminal charges pending. You chose to release information on one, but you chose not to release information on the other. That's not transparency. You release information on one because your cops don't look so bad. That's what I see. On the other one, your cops, they don't look that nice, so you didn't release it. That's what I see.
I understand that, sir. And please understand, typically, you guys have known, anybody's been here a long time, we don't typically release that. We don't release body camera footage and car footage simply because you start going down a rabbit hole where you have to control certain things, and at some point you say, look, we have to look at it from this standpoint, we can't look at it from that. I would love to be completely 100% transparent with everybody. I'm not going to lie to any of you. I'm not going to say we're covering anything up. I will tell you, just like with the Anders case and the case you're referring to, there is far more at play there than what you saw in a 10-second video. Far more. And I'd be glad to discuss a lot of those factors with you in private because, again, there are still requirements assigned by law that we have to follow. And this decision has to be a group decision within city government before, and with the district attorney, as a matter of fact. I can obviously identify your anger about it, and I understand. And I can't tell you right now, yes, we're going to release that video. I can tell you that these things have to be discussed and evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Okay?
This question says, will the Midland Police Department put forth an effort to network and recruit from historically black universities and colleges?
Yes, of course. Our recruiting effort goes far beyond the city of Midland. I actually interviewed, and this is a long way around, I'm sorry, but you gave me the mic and nobody wants it, so. I just interviewed a gentleman yesterday for the position of police officer who's a 34-year veteran of the United States Army. He's retiring as a sergeant major over their Inspector General Division. He is a native of Jamaica who immigrated to the United States, completed high school, and wanted to get back to this country. And so he spent 34 years in the military. Now he wants to be a police officer for the city of Midland. Those are the people that we are attempting to entice. Those people with varied backgrounds, with varied community attachments, various races and demographics, to represent accurately the citizens of Midland, Texas. So in answer to your question, yes, of course. We try to reach out to all colleges, and again, we go as far as our budget will allow us, and sometimes that doesn't allow us to go as far as we would like. But we try to reach out as much as we can online without physically being somewhere. So, in answer to your question, yes.
This is also to Chief Herman. I want to recognize and respect that we have some MPD officers that are great at interacting with the community. They are amazing and we need more like them. However, based on my own interaction and hearing from my neighbors and friends, there exists a lack of kind human professionalism upon first contact with local law enforcement, or traffic stops, for example. I understand that much of the MPD is young and new to patrol. That said, what training is done on regular positive social interaction with community? Is there any training on trauma-informed interaction? What type of training and how often is ethnic diversity and implicit bias training conducted? Is it only on diversity among the squad or community focused also?
We may have to take this bite by bite.
Okay.
I'm old and I can't remember. So let's start with the beginning. So, or I tell you what, let's go backwards. Yes, there's consistent training. At the bare minimum, there are 40 hours of training that each officer has to conclude regarding dealing with different ethnicities, different races, different genders. There's a whole litany of things that go into that, so that we try to understand everybody's point of view, what everyone is dealing with. Now, that's not just on the squad level, but we do conduct squad training every other week for each squad, which includes the gamut from firearms to defensive tactics to ethics and to racial diversity and cultural diversity. So not only is there a bulk of training at the beginning of the career and periodically throughout the career, but it's periodic throughout the year as well. So that's an enormous amount of training. And let me just tell y'all, we have probably the most robust training focus of any law enforcement agency in this state. We've devoted ourselves to that because we believe sincerely that professionalism is achieved through selection and training. So, left to give you. Now, let's reverse a little bit. So, on the officer side, as you can imagine, yes, we are in fact a very young department right now. We have wonderful, wonderful men and women that are more than willing to put their lives on the line for everybody in this room. Now, teaching them that you get a lot more with honey than vinegar can be difficult at times. It's a learning process. We're mentoring, we're raising our for lack of a better term, kids to adults. Baby cops up to adult cops. I've been around in this job for 28 years. And I will tell you right now, the person I am right now is not who I was 28 years ago. And I want you to understand, when we put them through the academy, we put these young men and women through the academy who may have never been in an altercation, never had an argument, and we have to teach them how to handle themselves. And we have to tell them, you have to go home at night, and yes, you will have to put your physical being between one of our citizens and somebody who's threatening their life. So we have to instill that amount of braveness in them, bravery, and sometimes that comes out as a lack of empathy and a lack of respect And so when we recognize that, we have to pull them back and say, that's not how we do it. So when I go back to that, we constantly monitor the activities of our personnel. This falls in line with that. These sergeants watch these videos and they critique and they bring those officers in, they have those one-on-one conversations to try and correct these deficiencies, which is nothing but growing pains, to be honest with you. Now, there are many more questions that I can't remember, so if you could repeat them.
Yes, I can.
Unless somebody else would like to answer. Okay, go ahead.
One said, is there any training on trauma-informed interaction?
So trauma-informed interaction, I'm assuming we're referring to people who are experiencing psychological distress. Is that, whomever asked the question, is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, yes, of course. Officers have to go through this, that training specifically through their career. So they have a bulk of training that's a 40-hour course for 1 week, and then that has to be revisited. Generally for us, it's on a quarterly basis, depending on if there are changes to protocols that come about from TCOL, which is our Commission on Law Enforcement Education, that are mandated. And obviously, we continue to do in-house training as well on those specific issues. Next.
Also, do you believe it will help community and police relations for more teaching to the general public on safe and proper police interaction? What are your ideas, and are you open to others on how we can accomplish improved training and understanding to make a safer city for all people and strive toward a more perfect union?
Okay, that's a lot. So, is there training regarding community involvement with the police? Yes, there is. Our officers have to go through it. In fact, it was initiated by the Sandra Bland Act. Does everybody recall the Sandra Bland incident with the DPS arrest of the young lady? Okay. So that led to courses devoted exclusively to the interaction of public with community with police. That has been extended into our schools. So now we have officers who go out into the schools to teach children about interacting with the police. And I think that helps. I think that, of course, the biggest thing is to try and express to them that we're here to help and we're not here to scare you and hurt you. But on top of that is, okay, here's the deal. When you get pulled over, don't start reaching under your seat because that makes us nervous. Don't start digging around in the glove compartment because that makes us nervous. We don't know you and we don't know what you're doing. And unfortunately, we've had officers killed in those instances. So it's things that most people don't think about. If I walk up to your car and you're looking for your insurance, you're thinking, I got to find my insurance, and I'm thinking, oh, is that a gun that's coming out? So it's things that most people don't think about, so we try to put you in our mind frame and say, these are the things that we ask you to do to make our contact much more pleasant. So, yes.
The next question is, what is standard protocol for running a stop sign?
Okay. Do you guys really need to be up here? Would y'all like to go sit down? Okay. When someone runs a stop sign, we initiate a traffic stop. Now, it depends on the environment, number one, as to how long it takes us to actually become close enough to the vehicle to initiate our lights, which, for those of you who don't know, let's go ahead and get into this. There are 4 ways that our in-car camera systems initiate, okay? One is we turn on our lights and the camera comes on automatically. 2 is the officer has to manually turn the camera on, which is stationed below the visor. Number 3 is they're involved in a traffic accident. And number 4 is if the patrol vehicle reaches a certain speed, then the camera automatically comes on. Now, the purpose of that, unfortunately, is so that we can monitor the activities of our personnel, kind of a big brother thing. If you're going too fast, we need to know it. So the protocols are, and again, a lot of this is very fluid because nothing is always the same. If I'm behind you at a traffic stop, a stoplight or a stop sign, and you run it, it's pretty easy for me to get there quick enough and make contact with you immediately following that infraction. But if I see this from a distance, and then I try to move my way through whatever, whether it be traffic or neighborhoods to get to you, well, then we've got more of a delay. And so, in order to prevent the instigation of a pursuit, which is a huge concern for us because it places you in danger, we try to get as close to that violated vehicle as possible before we turn the lights on and initiate the traffic stop. In addition to that, it depends on the location. If we're on the highway, we're going to try to find a safe spot for you to pull over, or on a major thoroughfare, or whatever the case may be, for your safety as well. That answer?
Yes. I'm going to ask all the questions as advisory. We're going to ask all of them as we can, but as the advisory committee, we take very seriously making sure everyone's questions are asked and represented, even if they may have answered them. So this is the question: why wasn't the stop recorded for this? Why wasn't the running the stop sign recorded?
Again, that goes back to. Might say something. That goes back to the time delay between the point of the infraction and when the officer could actually move close enough to the vehicle to initiate the stop. Unfortunately, I know in a perfect world it seems though these things happen very quickly, but unfortunately they don't. And these things are fluid. So the officer is at a distance, at an oblique angle, sees the infraction. Even if he had turned his lights on at that moment, the camera wasn't pointing towards that infraction. So that's one point. But the other point is it took time for that officer to get behind the violated vehicle before they could turn their lights on. So it's just a matter of environment, folks.
I remember there was more community outreach by the MPD. Are we still doing that? And what type of outreach does MPD do?
I'm afraid, folks, I have to go back to, we used to have a very robust community relations unit. In fact, I think Larry Woodruff's here tonight. He was integral in that unit. And we had 4 people in that unit who could reach out and be available to provide community presentations, answer questions regarding your home security, all those things. We're down to 1 person now. And the reason we're down to 1 person is because we have to make a decision on whether we're going to be able to provide personnel for those outreaches or whether we're going to have enough people to be on the streets so that when you can call us, we can respond. So our intention, again, I go back to, is once we start getting staffing, is to start filling those positions again. We're just not at that point.
It says, why doesn't police officers ask questions when they arrive to situations at hand instead of jumping to conclusions and throwing authority around?
Well, I would have to know a specific instance, and whomever wrote that, feel free to reach out to me after, and we can discuss it specifically. In general, I say obviously we encourage and expect our officers to obtain all relevant information on an incident and then make determinations based on that. But depending on if the event is very volatile and very evolving rapidly, we may not have time to say, hey, everybody stop, let me talk to you right quick. And unfortunately, we do roll up on those instances where people are engaged in a physical altercation. When we run up, people are saying there's a man inside with a gun. These things are very volatile. We don't really have time because of life-saving needs. We don't have time to go, hey, I know there's a guy in the gun. Come here. I just need to talk to you. So I would have to have a specific incident to speak to that incident. Obviously, that's not our norm.
This question is for Mayor Payton. It says,
I bet I give it back to you here in just a minute.
please show me grace. I'm learning and I'm just the messenger, please. So I sent you an email requesting you watch the documentary called The 13th to get insight into Black experiences as to the criminal justice system from a historical perspective. Councilman Norman emailed me back saying he had seen it and found it would be a benefit for all to watch. I did not hear back from you. Have you had an opportunity to watch it? And if not, why not?
I haven't watched it yet because I haven't taken the time to watch it just yet. That's the simple answer to that. And I can make a commitment to you to watch that. I don't think I have a lot of requests from people right now for me to watch a lot of things and to read a lot of things, and probably every single day, especially over the last week and before. So I haven't watched it yet.
Does the city or county have an accountability committee that consists of a diverse, and by diverse I mean people of color, Hispanic, Black, Burmese, white, etc., women, men, young to veterans?
We do not, as best I can tell.
I'll answer that one. We do not. We do not have that committee. However, when I ran for District 2 council, I did say I was going to put together an advisory committee that would advise me on certain issues and certain things that go on throughout the city. We do have a diverse advisory committee that can deal with those issues and things of that nature that come from the community. Now, when I did that, I didn't get a lot of response. I didn't get a lot of people that wanted to be a part of that advisory committee. And I understand people have things that they want to do and everything, but it is a diverse committee, and we'll be welcoming more members to that committee if you would like. And I think through that advisory committee, it could be a lot of accountability held within that committee as well. And that committee is made up of members of our community. I wanted to keep it, because I represent District 2, I want to keep it strictly with constituents from District 2. So that's an answer to that question. The advisory committee is something that we could use to to get in there and express our concerns and things of that nature.
This one is in the similar field.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yes, that's correct. And on my committee, it's only strictly for District 2 residents because it's directed towards issues and things that go on in District 2. Now, if someone else wants to provide another committee or, get other committees to direct to handle these issues that we're having throughout the city, then people are more than welcome to do so. I'm not dividing because like I said, my committee is very diverse. We have Hispanics, we have Caucasians, and we have Black people on the committee. So my committee is not divided, but it is directed towards District 2. Just like we have a division of different districts in Midland, District 2 has that advisory committee.
It's a good question, and let me tell you one of the things we discussed when we were talking about having these meetings, having these town halls, was we very simply said, listen, we're not just going to have one town hall so everybody feels like we had one day where we listened, and then we're going to move on. And one of the reasons we have town halls is to listen to ideas just like that. To be quite frank and to be quite blunt about it, we haven't thought about an advisory committee for the city. So I can sit here and say, man, we just haven't gotten around to that yet, or we haven't even thought about it yet. There are multiple things we haven't thought about yet, related to how we become a better city, how we become a better city relationally, how we become relationally diverse and caring and as concerned about one another as we are for what's below the ground, above the ground, and how we behave. So it is a good idea. It's an idea that we can all take. And as I shared with Councilman Norman, when we leave something like this and we make notes and we say, we need to consider how we put a commission together that Councilman Norman has shown us an example of. And so the answer to why isn't there is quite simple. We haven't thought about it. The answer to can we do that someday later? Absolutely. Should you hold us accountable to that? Absolutely. That's why we have the town halls, not because we're trying to placate a constituency, but because we're trying to find out what we don't know and how we can help with what we don't know.
I'd like to add on to that, ma'am. My recommendation would be that you contact your representative in your district, because there is a representative for every district in Midland. And I think that way they can relate to the mayor and to the others. However, I thank Councilman Norman for putting this on the map. And again, please reach out to your elected official and hold he or she accountable. And by the way, I do need to say some of you have sent us suggested cards. If we don't read it, then you need to go to the mic, because now we're doing the questions that's addressed to the ones that's up here. So we're not ignoring you, but please make sure you remember we're only doing questions. The stories or whatever next will come up, and you're welcome to go to the mic and ask, give you what has happened to you or your experience with law enforcement, and we will call on that shortly.
Really active so much in the community is because of this lack of funding for officers to be able to fill those roles. But I'm speaking more so, the question is more concerning District 2 are areas in the community where more of a need of connection is. I mean, there's certain areas where these are not problems, but in the areas where there are issues, focusing or being a commitment to say that's going to be the first thing back on the map that we do is to bring back just connection with the community.
Of course, sir. And I will tell you what is first on the agenda, and this was actually brought to me by our internal affairs sergeant, is the initiation of a PAL program, which is a police athletic league that we would like to station in District 2. And what that does is it places officers in an environment to entice teens and kids to come in, and we teach them boxing, different types of sports, helping with their homework. So that's the initiation of a process for those children, that child level. Okay. Building on that, and it's not a funding issue, sir, it's just a personnel issue because of our shortage. But once we can build those numbers back up, I have a number of officers that can't wait to be in our community relations unit. And all they want to do is reach out to our communities. And you're absolutely right. That reaching out, there are different areas throughout town that don't need to talk to us, don't want to talk to us. But there are other areas that we need to build that relationship, and we need to explain, this is why we do something, or what are you afraid of that we may do, and how can we put those fears to rest? So that's a long way around, yes. But we do intend on reinstituting those programs and even expanding them. Yes, sir.
I mean, we understand that you're talking about, you have a young group of men that you raise with your top and all that, but we're not here because this just started. We're here because this been going on. So this tells me it's not a problem with the people we bringing in, it's a problem with the system. And that's what we need to correct. I mean, it don't matter if you're putting all of these new people, but it's the same system. So how are we correcting that? Besides you bringing in the new officers or whatever, how are we correcting the system, and what are we going to do to fix that? So we stop the profiling of the people that's driving in nice cars and their cars are painted green, or they coming from a certain house. How do we stop that?
Well, and let me speak to how we combat it now and how we'll continue to combat it in the future, okay? And I'm going to give you the layout so you make your decision based off of all the information I provide you. And then please, by all means, reach out to me afterwards and we'll have a one-on-one discussion. Our vetting process begins with an application, right? That application includes specific questions that are there to reveal bias. An individual who is, for lack of a better term, geared towards using bias in our profession. So that's the first layer. The next layer are the testing procedures. We have a testing procedure that's so intrinsic that there are areas throughout the entire test that deal specifically with removing people who would employ bias in our policing profession. Then we move on to our interview process. And it's the same thing. There is an interview board that is conducted specifically with questions geared towards removing people that we're talking about. Then there's a psychological. And then in the academy, every layer of training has an element in it to prevent people from continuing in the process who would employ bias. And then, if they make it that far, field training officer program, which is more of the same. And then their first line supervisors who monitor them. So what I'm telling you is, your concern for bias by us, by profiling people, is your concern, and that's real. My perception of it is we're working very hard to make sure that that is not a reality for us, that we are not employing bias, that we are not using some preconceived notion of who a person is and what they've done, that we're using only violations of law. So you and I will have to talk on specifics. And guys, please understand, there's that perfect officer that we all have in our minds, but it's hard to create that perfect officer, and it takes time. And it takes different experiments to hone those skills and hone those abilities and try and make that one who's willing to go into that firefight, but also wants to interact with everybody and wants to be that positive influence.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're running out of time as far as the questions. However, every question that's here tonight, Councilman Norman will have those questions. We're going to do 3 more questions because it's important to us. The questions are important, but it's important for them and myself to hear of any encounter, whether it's positive or negative, that you've had with our law enforcement. Because sometimes people don't believe some things happen. And we want to hear from that. We're not cutting anybody off or anything, but as I stated before, we possibly wouldn't get to all the questions. Now, if you want to do a story of an encounter, please go out and fill out a card with your name so that we can call on you. Okay, and we're going to do 3 more.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me come up here and ask some of the final questions, give Lynn Rogers a break. I'm Adrian Urquidy, and ran for City Council District 2, if y'all didn't know. Wish we would have had this many people during our debate. I'm part of the advisory committee for Councilman John Norman. Anyways, thank you for all being here. The Mayor, Chief Seth Herman. This one's to Councilman Norman. The dash cam footage was released in the spirit of transparency per your Facebook post. Do you believe that that footage was a full counting of what transpired that Saturday afternoon?
To answer that, based off the information that was given to me, yeah. the way it was explained to me is just the way that Chief Herman explained it earlier, on those 4 different ways that the camera is activated. But I don't know if I remember you hearing Chief Herman that so when the lights are turned on, the camera is activated. But I do know I was told that it loops back 30 seconds, so we won't have a continuous recording of any video or whatnot. So when the lights are turned on, then it loops back 30 seconds and then starts recording and saving that recording. And the other 3 that I don't remember, if they're in an accident, then it loops back 30 seconds and starts recording. So based off of that information and the tape and the tapes that were released, and I want to add that I also fought for the entire tape to be released, because I mean, quite frankly, I know my people, and I know we don't be like, hey man, this is chopped up, what's going on? So I pushed for the entire tape to be released, and as far as my knowledge, the full tape.
Okay. This one's to DA Laura Nodoff. Have you declined to prosecute any cases from the sheriff or police department where you concluded there was not probable cause for the arrest? If yes, approximately how many a year?
Yes, we do decline prosecution of cases when we review initial evidence if there doesn't appear to be probable cause. How many per year, I couldn't say off the top of my head. However, we keep very, very tight statistics with regards to those dismissal rates and what they are. And so sometimes we have cases that we dismiss even because we don't get an offense report. We're not going to hold, we've put very strict limitations on how long the police department has to turn over their evidence, because we don't want anybody sitting in jail unnecessarily if we're not going to get an offense report. So some of those dismissals are because we don't have the evidence. So again, I can't tell you the number off the top of my head, but they're either dismissed at the outset, or they're taken to a grand jury where they would be no go.
I'm just going to clarify something, and she can clarify this if I'm wrong. When she says they don't have the evidence, what we're talking about is the video wasn't downloaded, or the report's stuck in the system at a layer that it has to be approved. It's not that we arrested somebody for cocaine and go, yeah, that's pretty good, and put it in our pocket. It's not that. That's not what we're discussing. We're not talking about the absence of physical evidence. We're talking about procedural issues that stymie the process. Thank you.
And part of that is so that we can make that probable cause. We're the second layer. We play Monday morning quarterback, and that's what we're looking for. So when we do say that we dismiss them, we have to be able to look at, because that's our charging basis as well as probable cause. And so we have to be able to evaluate all the information that comes in to make that decision.
Okay. This was back to the chief of police. So if you want to get that mic again. After reviewing all the video concerning the Tye Anders situation, did you see anything you would have done differently from a procedural process?
Let me just talk yeah, I would have, because I'm old and I've been doing this for 28 years. And myself and some of the senior troops, we would have done something different. It wouldn't have looked as good. It would have been very fast. It probably would have ended up with a broken window and somebody been pulled out of a car and arrested and transported immediately. So in answer to the question, yes, would I, as a senior troop who doesn't have a lot of patience, have done it differently? I sure would have. Would it have been better? It certainly would not have. In fact, you wouldn't have liked the way it looked. It would have been totally legal. It would have been well within policy. It would have been well within federal and state regulations. I see Ted Macklin shaking his head because he's been there. But it would not have looked as professional as the men and women who were there that day who showed extreme patience.
Okay, this is really, do you have a protocol for a mole on the force and guidelines to weed them out?
A mole. Assume we're referring to a spy? Are we talking about communism?
That's my question right there.
Okay, but what are we referring to?
That if you realize you have somebody on the board that's going to be a problem, do you have a protocol to get them out of the way?
Okay, so not a spy, but somebody who's a problem, who's an issue. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we do. And let me start off by saying this, and I'm not real proud of it, but I'm going to tell you, we fired 14 people in the last 2 years. 2 of them we arrested ourselves before we fired them. We have a very robust internal investigation system. When we see a problem, when somebody does one thing, we evaluate it, we investigate it, we make a determination. If they get to stay working with us because it's not egregious, it's a mistake, we continue to monitor them. Now, when I say a mistake, I mean a procedural mistake. Let's say they fail to fill out the form a certain way or something to that extent. But we continue to monitor that person or those people. And within our internal reporting system, it tracks every infraction. And when we see a pattern, then we have to bring ourselves together as a team, as a staff, and say, okay, this is an issue. We're seeing an issue. Do we terminate them? Is it something that can be corrected through training? Or is this something inherently wrong that we need to go beyond that and turn this over to the district attorney for further investigation and take us out of that loop?
Okay, I want to ask you this question. A couple of weeks ago, I was pulled over, just like Mr. Anders was pulled over. I didn't see the lights, but the officer, she did her job. When she turned her lights on and I didn't pull over, she sounded her siren. That's when I recognized her, so I immediately pulled over. That was not done. What happened there?
Well,
that should be number 5 in the protocol.
I'll tell you right now, in this specific incident that you're referring to with Mr. Anders, he knew that the officer was behind him because he told him on the way to jail that he knew he was behind him. I'm sorry. That got too specific. I apologize. The officer was close enough and obviously believed that the individual knew that he was present. Now, if you're asking me if there's an established protocol, you do this, then you do that when it comes to that traffic stop, they're fluid enough that a lot of those determinations have to be left to the officer. Okay? Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
She did her job. I didn't see her lights.
Sure. And that happens. That happens.
Sounded the siren.
Okay, sir, excuse me, but we'll come. We do have the mic for those who want to express, not being rude, but let's stay a timely manner. However, Lord Nordoff, another question. Why do you give stiffer sentences to the black man and woman than you do others?
We don't. And I will be happy. I have reports that we have run that show that we are equally across the races the same, within 1 or 2 percentages. The same number are going to prison, the same number are getting probation, the same number are getting deferred. And if you want to come down and look at the entire sheet and all of the prosecutions and what the outcome was, I will be more than happy to sit down and show you what those outcomes are. Because one thing that I talk about in my office and the staff of my office knows is that I will not tolerate anybody who makes a plea offer based off of an individual's race. In fact, I had a prosecutor who was posting racially motivated comments online on a forum, and I fired him within hours of finding out because I won't tolerate it. Because there is no place for that to be a factor when the case comes over. We will have to, and the thing is, it's a changing of a mindset. There are a lot of people who came up through prosecution of just everybody goes to prison and working very hard to train individuals that that's not what you should do. You need to look at the circumstances of the offense. You look at the history, and you take into consideration information brought to you from the defense attorney. which may be something that we don't know, and I'm never going to know that they came from in a home where they were abused, and it could play a factor into it. But the one thing we don't look at is what the race is of the defendant when we make our offers, because that's not justice, and justice shouldn't fit in a box. It should be determined on a case-by-case basis. So one thing I can know for people who have concerns about it, I can tell you one thing we're going to do. Would have already had it up and running, but COVID threw a wrinkle in it. We're going to have a prosecutor's academy where citizens can come in and you can learn about how a case actually moves through the criminal justice system after an individual's arrested. We have procedures, we have ready to go, but literally COVID hit, and we want to make it short, and we're also going to make it where you can watch it online, because it helps for you to understand the process. That is, it's not a plug and play, that you have to understand all the different steps that go through the process, and those are not only things that I believe are a benefit for the general community, but I believe it's also, if you have a case that's pending or a relative, you have a greater understanding of what happens as you move down the road.
Thank you for that. One other question, Lori. Why is it that you threaten the black man with the longest sentence if he comes back into your courtroom?
I absolutely have no clue what that is. I have no reason to threaten somebody. We have situations where we stand before a judge and say what our plea offer is, and that if we proceed forward, then we will revoke the plea offer, and based on their criminal history, they could be enhanced. And we will say that on the record. We say that on the record so that the defendant knows what they're facing in the event that they go to trial. Because there are some defendants who don't realize that we may be offering you drug court probation. And if you don't take drug court probation, then what you're facing is potentially 25 years to life because you have 2 prior felony convictions. So we may put that on the record so that they understand the opportunity that's trying to be afforded to them. And if it's coming across as a threat, that's the intention is I don't want somebody to move forward who then 5 years later into a prison sentence says, nobody told me exactly what was going to happen if I went to trial.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Amy, did you get all the forms that you needed in reference to the questions? Okay, thank you all for taking care of that. However, we're into time, but for about 2 minutes, I'm going to allow anybody in here to get up and fluff your pillows and kind of get yourself back together. And I know they're kind of tired, so let's give them a few seconds just to kind of fluff their pillows, and then we're going to come to the phase 2 of this. I'm sorry, I thought I talked loud. Okay, we're going to let everyone get up and fluff their pillows. That means shake yourself, get the blood flowing, and then we're going to go into phase 2. And that will be when you will come and share your experiences, and we will call your names. If you have a story, please go put your name on a card. That's the only way we can call on you.
How you doing, man? There's a picture I got years ago. When Mom and Dad had a birthday party. Yeah. I got to looking through some pictures. Wow. Yeah. Jeffrey Jones versus Hewlett. Yeah. I'd like to see that. Yeah, okay. How can I get it to you? You know where I live at, man. I still live in my mom's. Oh, you still there in North South? Okay. If I miss you, the mailbox or something, I can drop it off in. Appreciate it. I think when they open up the next court, I think that's going to be you know, this is the way I feel.
Okay, if you would take your seats, please. If you would take your seats. If everyone would take your seat. Okay, if there are any pastors in the house, would you please stand? Any pastors, missionaries, evangelists, men of the cloth, however way you want to take it, are they in the house? This kind of way that I do not want to be disrespectful and not recognized. Are there any other clubs, organizations, leaders, ad hoc committee members, any of you all, if you please stand. And I'm asking you to do this because I've had people tell me, where can they get the help? Who can help them? So now I want them to see, we have our ministers, we have clubs and organizations, you got your ad hoc committee, you got your committee, the advisory committee, are they in the house? District 2 advisory committee people, are you in the house? Kind of wave your hand. And that is what Councilman John Norman has said he would put together, and he did exactly that. Okay, we will go forward. We want you to give any encounter that you had with the law in a respectful manner. And make sure that we don't be derogatory. Whatever it takes for you to get your point over, please state it. And I want to say to you, as one of your leaders, if you tell your story and you feel like you're being harassed or treated unfairly, please reach out to Councilman Norman, if not him, some of these other leaders that you saw stand a while ago, so that we can address it. A closed mouth never get fed. If you don't tell us, we won't know. And if you don't go file a complaint, hear me, if you don't go file a complaint with the chief or whomever that they have in internal affairs, then we can't help you. All we can do is listen, because we cannot move forward without your permission, and your permission is that you went and you filed a complaint. Okay? So we're going to move forward with the first one. Oh, again, you have 2 minutes. And who's time? Okay, the time is over in the corner. You have 2 minutes to express yourself. And the first person is Pastor Billy Ashley. Okay, he's gone. He's left. The next. Wait a minute, hold on. I'm only one person. You asked me to do this, now, well. Joseph Norman?
Yes. My name is Joseph Norman.
My name is Joseph Norman, and I know everybody's tired, but we sick and tired of being tired too. And, you know, my question is for the chief. It's not really a question, it's more of a rhetorical question. But in 2017, 2 black Midland police officers sued the city of Midland, alleging a culture of harassment and discrimination towards black employees in the police department. My question is 2 parts. What were the results of the lawsuit and the investigation, and how can we trust the Midland Police Department when even their own officers are discriminated against?
I understand, sir. I can't give you the outcome because it's not over. It's still litigation, and that's a matter for our legal department. What I can say is my knowledge of those events, I don't know how much I can say actually. The city vehemently denies those allegations. And I think that the outcome of the litigation will show why. And that's all I can say. I'm sorry. I wish I could say more.
How can we trust the Midland Police Department when 2 officers, one of them from the east side, that we know, and you talk about training, you talk about all of this training, but who is doing the training? Because you can't, I don't mean to be blunt, but a white man can't train another white man to deal with the black man. You have to have our influence in order to know how to even write the training up. If we're not influential on how the training is even written, then how can we even communicate when all of that is on y'all's end and it's none of us involved in even the training methods?
Well, I think you need to understand, sir, we don't make up our own training. Our training comes from vetted sources outside of our department. So it's sources from the government as well as independent entities that create this training. And again, it has to go through a vetting process before it comes to us. As to who's presenting it, would it mean more coming from a man of color or a woman of color? Undoubtedly. And we have trainers who are of color and who present that information.
Not just color, but culture.
Culture, yes, sir, I understand. And it doesn't matter what the demographic is. Ethnicity, gender, race. It has to come from all of those sources. And I definitely understand what you're saying. Now, speaking to the first thing you were talking about the charges that have been alleged. They're allegations. And what I have to say is, don't condemn us yet until there's an outcome, because it's still an allegation. And there's always an underlying issue, and there's always a larger story. I just can't get into it right now.
I understand.
Okay?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And out of all respect, please hold all your applauses until we have finished. That would be very much appreciated. Freddie Joe Ray.
I just want to address what happened to me.
I had 24 911 calls where I called about my son attacking me and my wife. When he attacked me the last time, I called y'all's officers come out, put guns on me just like they did him. Threw me in the car and gave me 2 aggravated assault charges. Cost me $22,000. Then they finally came aboard and made a deal after I went to Lubbock and got the best lawyer in West Texas to represent me. And they dropped it they enhanced me twice, 25 to life, twice, for defending my own home, at home. And then my lawyer came down and they give me a 1-year misdemeanor probation. Talk to me about that.
Well, I can't because
I imagine you can't.
specifics.
Let's be respectful, please.
I'm being respectful, but I done spent $22,000, and they wouldn't even let me file charges when he jumped on me. And then when my lawyer came down and pulled the 21 911 calls, they ain't got nothing to say about that. But they had me at gunpoint just like they had this young man. I'm still not understanding. I'm still not.
Thank you for sharing. Modestine Mays, I might pronounce it incorrectly. Sweetie Mays.
My name is Modestine Mays. My name is Modestine Mays. They call me Sweetie. And I am 77 years old now. But the incident that I had with the police, I'm sure it was all my fault. But anyway, I was 63 or 4 years old. But now I'm 77. And the thing happened to me. So many years ago, I know trouble don't last always. Praise God for deliverance. But 39 years I did the jail ministry downtown, and I worked and did that. And then this incident happened to me when I wasn't feeling very well, and I'm a bad diabetic. But I was on my way home, and I don't know if I went through a stop sign or what, but the man must have put everything on because he sounded his thing. You can hear whatever the thing is. Okay, well, he sounded it. And I was a block from my house when he did this. So I drove on up in my driveway. And when I drove up in my driveway, I had my granddaughter in the car with me too. So we were getting out, and the police already got out and told me to get on out, and I did. So I went to go towards him out that way, and he kind of jacked me. I guess we were going to fight, because I was fighting, I think. Because I had 3 policemen on me and a woman, too. And in the meantime, as we were doing all of this, I got thrown on the ground. And all I can remember was somebody put their foot on the back of me, lying on the ground. And I know people saw it and saw the disturbance and what was going on. But in the meantime, when they did get me up, to go take me on to the police station to be whatever they had to do. So anyway, my time's up. Thank you.
No, keep going, ma'am. Please, keep going.
Okay, but anyway, I went on, and in the meantime, they did my car funny. They wrecked my car on the inside and outside and did all that. And they said I had drugs on me, but I didn't have any drugs. But anyway, they took me on to the police station. And in the meantime, they told me that my car had to get taken to the lot up yonder, wherever you go. Where they take your car to the pound or something? Wherever, but it went there. And they did the same thing there. But anyway, I spent all night in the jailhouse. And I wasn't feeling very good and didn't talk much. And I think one man that there was telling me, said, that lady goes to the jail ministry all the time. I could hear him talking. But I said, God, somebody knows me up here, so that's a blessing. But anyway, as it went on, that next one, I didn't get out. They had to call my little pastor, I think, that night, and about 1:30 or 2, and tell him, one of your members in jail, Sweetie. So anyway, I didn't get out of jail until Sunday afternoon. And my brother, who's dead gone now, he get me a bondsman. And that bondsman, whoever that was, he paid so much money down to get a bond on me. And then they let me out. But in the meantime, I had to do all of this. And still my car was in jeopardy too, and had to pay money for all of that. But in the meantime, the cops kind of hurt me. I had to have a rotary cup done in my right arm. I wasn't going to be able to use it. They told me, and I'm a beautician, and that's my living. But anyway, I did that, got that surgery done right after I got out the thing, and was off for 8 weeks. And I just praise the Lord for all of it, because I don't know anything about that. I can't even tell you the doctor's names that I did. But anyway, when they did my surgery, after they did my surgery, I can lift that hand. But I praise God for that too. And I don't know those four folks that had me down on the ground. I just prayed for them and said, Lord, you take care of that. And I know I could hate somebody and everything, but I didn't do that. And my family was pretty mad. But I told them, no, this over it. I had people to call me. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to do this. But I just praise God, because I know I could have got killed right there in my own house, probably. But God blessed me to still be alive, and I can tell about it. So I just praise God for all of it. And this is what it's because I first of all, when this horn thing went off, I should have stopped, but I didn't. And I caused the confusion. But I still praise God that it still all worked out. I'm not mad, but I know it. I went through it. I'm the one who went through it. So I praise God for letting me come out. So God bless y'all.
I want to kind of reiterate on that. Chief, is there anything in your policy and your training that your officers go through to identify individuals that might be having a health issue, acting erratically or whatever, especially with a diabetic? I'm listening to, because why? I'm a diabetic. They stop me and know what I'm having. Anyway, is there a place in your policy that they are aware of how to handle senior citizen, handicap, or disabled?
Yes, ma'am. There's specific training centering on identifying people who are in distress, medical distress. I obviously have not heard of your incident, ma'am, but I would love for you and I to talk. I'm very concerned about what you said, obviously, like I'm sure everybody is.
Thank you so much for reacting to that and wanting to reach out to her. Kathy Broderick, and before you come, we've been instructed you must find a seat in here, or we're going to have to get you to go over to the overflow room. So please, there are a few seats up here on the front and kind of in the middle. So we need you to please take a seat at this time, everyone.
My experience with law enforcement is from the other side, because I've worked for 20 years in prison. And during that 20 years, I was the union president. So I understand that people that work in law enforcement make mistakes. But I also understand that there's some bad apples get through this screening process. And that thing that you call bravery, sometimes it's arrogance.
Please hold your applause, please.
And it's going on all over our nation in different police departments and sheriff's office and in federal law enforcement officers. That arrogance that people can do that to someone. And I know you said you would have handled that situation with Tye the other day a little more forcefully, and it would have been by the book. Well, by the book has a lot of latitude. And I defended the actions of people that were wrong, okay? But I had to tell them they were that stupid when you hired them. And some of these kids that your baby cops are stupid. And no amount of training is going to fix that. So I think that, again, your staff has to stay on top of that. I think you put those two kids in the back of that squad car because you wanted to listen to the video. I do. You know, if you'd have put them into separate cars, that video wouldn't have been near as exciting to hear.
Time.
But anyway, I'm just going to make a point that law enforcement people don't always get in the profession because they care about people.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Jennifer DeLon.
I'm a native Midlander, 48 years here. I grew up here on the east side. There's always two sides to every story. My concern being on the east side all my life, every day, speeding through residential areas, several hit and runs, running stop signs, not even putting a signal. My concern, my issue is that it starts with us as council too, as a community. We need to do our part as well and, obey the law. Not just that, but, have respect for your neighbors, law enforcement, people that live next door to you. I'm kind of nervous, so I'm sorry. It's, it seems like there's always a bad portrayal of the police department. I'm speaking as far as Midland Police Department, no other city or county. We're talking about Midland County, city of Midland. My question is, I guess mainly, what is Council 2 doing to maybe invite Council 2 area to get more involved, be more positive, and, because every day, my parents' house has been ran into 7 times by people speeding under the influence, and if it hadn't been for Vicki Haley putting a guardrail at my parents' house, they probably wouldn't have a house. And I think people here on the east side can agree with me. We do have issues that happen here, as far as, people breaking into our properties, our vehicles, stolen property, and it just, upsets me because what are we doing? We have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do as neighbors to improve our community here? Not just all of Midland County, but where we live in Council 2. So my question is, I guess, I'm sorry to go over my time, but to you, Council, I was going to say John Love, I'm sorry, because y'all are both John. What do you suggest or what do you recommend that we can do as a community to avoid, issues that happen in our own area? And, I'm not here taking sides. I've had issues with the police, but on a good manner. Do we feel negative about the police when we're calling them about a car accident? Do we feel negative when somebody's broke into our home and we call the police department to come out to our house? I've called them numerous of times because people have wrecked right there on Oak, Pecan, Pine, you name it, hit and runs. And, the police are doing, the best that they can. And I've lived outside of Midland County, and I think the PD is doing a good job. I've never had issues with them, but I don't give them a reason to have an issue with me as well. But at the same time, this is a prime example. Sir, not to interrupt you, I'm trying to make a statement about the police, and I can hear behind me some...
Right, I understand.
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah. And where's the respect? I mean, I didn't come here to get noises brought to me,
I understand.
Yes,
But I am respecting you, and in respect of this event that's been put on, we do want to keep it at a minimum or maximum of 2 minutes, please. But to answer your question, I do have an advisory committee in District 2. been very well stated and blasted and put out there. And I do have my cards outside, and you can email me, you can call me. I'm not hard to get a hold of. I know personally a lot of people in this room, so I mean they have my numbers. So I'm not a hard person to get a hold of, and I'm not hiding. And we will be doing things to involve the community and bring the community together.
Thank
Does
you.
that answer your question? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so
Again, I
much.
apologize for going over the 2 minutes.
It's okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
If you guys have not looked into or researched community policing, I encourage you to do so. There are a lot of articles out there, and there are studies that have been vetted nationwide that are centered around community policing, that don't just involve law enforcement. Because there was a day that many of you who, my age and where we were more worried about our neighbor, the mom down the street, telling my mom about my misdoings. And part of that policing ourselves helps keep some of the actual law enforcement interaction. But there's great programs that are out there and initiatives that any organization that is represented in this room could pick up a model and start running with it with the support of law enforcement.
Okay, thank you for that. Claudia Skinner.
And real quick, with respect of time, we are in a portion where we are hearing our life experiences and things of that nature. We will be having more meetings to where we can ask these questions and everything. So, thank you.
Hello? Okay, I'm a little nervous because there's a lot. Listening to you guys today, I got a little bit better understanding of where you're coming from as far as what the police job is, what the councilman's job is, what the mayor's job is. I want y'all to understand what the community is seeing right now. It's not the fact that we're parading whatever happened, whatever infraction that y'all believe he did wrong. The problem that we have is the fact that there were multiple officers with guns drawn on an individual that didn't have any weapons, that had his hands up, was on the ground crying and pleading out of fear. How does that become you guys protecting the citizens that you swore an oath to protect the citizens, not yourselves? From my point of view, what I saw in that video was y'all protecting yourselves. You wasn't protecting him or nobody around him. This man is just turned 21 years old and is facing a felony charge over allegedly running a stop sign. How is that fair? How is that right, and how is that just? Those type of charges should be set aside for people that are actually committing those types of crimes. If I'm evading arrest, cool. Give me an evading arrest charge. But if there's a discrepancy with me driving through a stop sign when I should have gotten a ticket, opposed to 6 officers showing up with guns drawn, and I'm scared to death, and I'm telling you I'm scared to death, and you steady have your guns drawn, that's the problem. The problem isn't what happened after, it's not what happened after, it's what happened before. That's the problem. That's what we want to know about. All this other fluff that's going on right now, I really honestly could care less. We want to know, what are y'all going to do in the future to prevent this from happening again? Because if that was my son, I would have been alarmed. If it was your son, on the east side or west side or south side, wherever side you live on, that's irrelevant.
Time. Ignacio Lopez. Hello. We're here to listen. If you heard me at the beginning, I stated we would listen to anyone that has had an encounter with law enforcement. Now, if they choose to answer, that's up to them. But we want them to listen to what we are providing. Okay, Mr. Lopez.
Please answer. Please.
Okay, he wants to answer. Go for it.
Man, I'm not going to get any specifics of the case, but I will talk to what your concerns are. You're absolutely right. That traffic stop, which was a Class C misdemeanor traffic violation, turned into a felony charge because the gentleman didn't stop. Now, hold on. Now,
let him explain.
The point is he didn't stop and he knew the police were behind him. And, yes, you're right. We are protecting our people. You're absolutely right. I'm not going to deny that. But there's too many unknowns there for us not to be on alert. He stated, I can't get into that here. There was too much time lapsed between the point that he stopped and when he exited that vehicle. There were too many concerns about not being able to see who else was in the vehicle, what he was doing in the vehicle to prepare for contact with police. Folks, I'm not going off of just what happens in Midland, Texas. I have to go off of what's going on throughout the United States. Officers die every day from ambush situations because... Yeah, I know that. I know that.
You ain't gonna do that. You're not ready to brutalize this family. You ain't gonna criticize. No, you're not ready to brutalize. Officers die every day. We're dying every day. Drop them charges. Drop them charges. Drop them charges.
So,
8 minutes had his knee on the throat. 8 minutes. Brutalized. 90-year-old grandma. What you gonna say?
can I,
How many officers?
let me say, sir, my older brother was here with me, and he had to leave.
Let's be respectful. Mr. Lopez, go forward, please.
My older brother was here with me, and he had to leave. In December of 2016, he took his first vacation of 9 years to watch the Minnesota Vikings play the Dallas Cowboys in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The police escorted him out of the stadium, saying that he was fighting with somebody in the stands when he had never left the stands. Video footage showed that he had never left his seat. They took him down through the basement. They came around the corner and they beat the hell out of my brother. He was here, but he had to leave because he couldn't handle the response that just came up. When he left, they beat him up, and to cover up for him, they charged him with disarming a police officer. They made up bogus charges. We went to court. The officers didn't know that there was camera footage throughout the stadium that exonerated my brother. They found him not guilty, and he walked free. Minneapolis, Minnesota. He was pleased that things like that don't happen in Midland, Texas, or so we thought. This is what he texted me after he left. I had to go because I still don't feel comfortable. Oh, understand when the police officer said, I could have killed him and gotten away with it. I could have killed him and I would have gotten away with it, was the police officer's words. So my brother said, I had to go because I still don't feel comfortable enough to express my experience. I asked the question, what would the police chief do differently with the Midland Police Department to change the direction that Midland seems to be moving toward? Same as in Minneapolis. I was content with the answer until I heard the police chief answer another question about what he would do differently if he was involved, if he was the officer involved in the Tye Anders situation. His answer bothered me. The fact that he, as well as a few senior officers, would have used force by breaking a window and dragging someone out of their car and still would be legal is a problem. De-escalation is key. De-escalation is key. A change of paradigm. The problem is still there. How do we expect officers to act differently if the people in charge are still willing to do worse than what the new guys did? So here's the question. Here's the statement that I made. Are your officers perfect? No. You talked about the pursuit of a perfect officer. Not a single one of them is perfect.
Time.
We're here to talk about healing. Things would move toward healing much faster if you were able to admit when an officer messed up.
Sir,
we don't
please,
see that.
excuse me, please, let's be respectful. Thank you. There are others that want to speak and tell their story. Pastor Tommy Hale. Pastor Tommy Hale.
Good evening to everyone up there. I think I know everyone there. My statement is not in regards to the police. I would ask right now that every African American male in this room stand up, please. Now I'm going to tell you guys something right now. You touch me, I'm retired federal law enforcement, so you go into federal prison. But it's damn shame we have this many African American men, but how many are volunteering with young black boys in this community? I rest my case.
Thank you, Pastor Hill.
I'm ready. I am too.
Okay, let's keep peace, please. Isaac Garnett Jr. Bishop Garnett II.
Can I answer the man?
No, we're gonna keep with the flow of the forum. Are you Bishop?
I have one answer for that.
Sir, can we please be respectful, please? I'm just asking, can we please be respectful? And we can, and I'm telling you, listen, we're gonna continue to have these conversations, but we're also gonna put a plan of action together.
I tried that.
And so, okay, but you haven't tried it with me.
I tried with the whole city.
You haven't tried it with me. I don't even know you. So what I'm saying is we're going to be respectful.
You're right.
We're going to do this in decent and in order. Thank you. And we will move forward. Mr. Garnett.
Let me thank each of you this evening to...
We can't hear you.
Let me thank each of you this evening for your presence here home today. From the mayor on the cross, protocol has already been established. I think we have, being that we have a new mayor and a new District 2 councilman, it affords us an opportunity to start fresh, to address some serious concerns that we have from a community standpoint outside of District 2, where you have a committee. Certainly appreciate that. I think with the young lady who spoke, we need one citywide, and we hope to work with Pastor Payton concerning the organization of that committee so we can address these matters while they're at this stage as opposed to them becoming mountainous. I was concerned with the issue with Sister Sweetie, Sister Maduris, when it transpired. I have the privilege of living in one city and pastoring in another city for 31 years, living in this city the majority of my years on earth. And then what really caught my eye and was very disturbing was Miss Peggy Jones, that I had the privilege of knowing for almost 50 years now. So we need to have some mechanisms in place so that we can address these matters prior to some type of explosive situation like we're seeing across the country taking place here in Midland, where it becomes out of control. So again, I look forward to addressing those with the mayor and others of the District 2 councilmen. And again, we appreciate the opportunity to address these matters.
And we thank you so much. I have been advised that we're only going to do approximately 3 more because of time. But as the councilman said, we are going to continue on these conversations, and he's going to come up after we do the last 3 to finalize everything. Gerald Johnson.
Yeah.
Are you Gerald Johnson? Okay, Gerald is not here.
I was with him. I came with him. And he told me he was leaving. And so I signed up.
Speak to Gerald Johnson.
Go ahead, Rick.
Okay. And due respect
2 minutes, remember.
to Mr. Norman and to the young man that had an inquiry with the police. I'm up here to speak for the people, and that means for the whole United States. And we are human beings, and we deserve as much attention as anyone else. And the main thing we're not getting, things that are happening to us, it's going unreported. This little incident is just one of the incidents that we are facing. We're facing young kids now, our young community. We're going to jail for no reason. Just this here was a ticket. What about all of those that they sit in the prison illegally and nothing is being wrote about? We have people up here, these are officers, and they know what's going on. I have an incident with the law. I got a son in prison, and you're sending him to prison with no police report. You know, we have no reason to send him. Federal law sent him, city laws arrested. We have an issue with our black community. We got to learn to stand up, not just here in Midland, but all over the world. We got to face what's going on in the world. We got people being killed, and we used to be, when I was coming up, they wouldn't show it on TV. Now you kill a man, it's like killing a dog. It's like killing a dog in the street. Ain't nobody, we have to have an investigation. Where the hell is an investigation when you see it on TV? Show me the investigation. But we got a couple of them. Oh, well, we got to go check this with Officer so-and-so. And then he's supposed to have a gun.
Time.
He's supposed to have a time. That's what we got.
Thank you for your comments. Daniel Corrales.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. My grandmother was the first councilwoman of color in Midland back in the 80s, and she told me my experience would be different from everyone else's because we weren't Anglo. I didn't understand what that meant at the time. About 20 years ago, I get stopped for driving a truck with a busted taillight on Scarborough. Cop asks me to step out. He wants to search the vehicle. I didn't know at the time you had a right to say no. So some of you can relate to this. I'm sitting on the side of the road, waiting for him to go through the vehicle, and I'm sitting there in cuffs for a busted taillight. And he didn't find anything. I got a Class C misdemeanor ticket, and I took care of it. So several years later, I go to law school. I become a prosecutor in New York City. And I declined to prosecute a bunch of cases because I understood where I come from. There's a cultural divide between where we come from and law enforcement. But what I want everyone here to understand, the fact that we're having this discussion today, that we're talking about it, that they're listening, that means that we can make progress. But as everyone else said, we have to be respectful, the way that we address it, so that we can be respected, right? So we have to give credit to the leaders that are here that are listening. But we have to voice our concerns in a legitimate, legal way. So when something happens to us, we can say, we stopped when that police officer pulled us over. But also understand the fear that we have when you don't have that relationship. And that's what we're asking to build, and that's what we're hoping to build. So as a community, we can come together. Their duty is to protect and serve. That's everybody, including themselves. But we don't want to be subjected to something just because we're not behind that badge. But as a former prosecutor, I'll tell you,
Time.
We have to come together and voice those concerns. If that's in the voting booth, if that's here, we have to come out. Thank you.
And thank you for listening. This is going to be our last call. I've got to follow order. And Dexter's trailer, if he's still in the room. You need to come to the mic. That's not Dexter's trailer, Councilman said.
It ain't. Is he here? I'll be your host.
Okay, he's gone. We'll go to... What's the question? Lavonda Johnson.
I'm sorry, my bad.
She's named Brian Phelps.
Good evening. A few years ago, I was leaving church dressed like this on the south side of Midland. Much like our beloved Tye, I was being trailed by the police. And I was pulled over for going 2 or 3 miles over the posted speed limit, leaving church, in a suit and a tie. The officer pulled me over in my grandmother's car. I was home from college after doing some work with NAACP and some organizing, leaving church. And a Buick Regal with handicap license tags. Was pulled over, and just like every black male in here, was told by my mom and my dad, put your hands at 10 and 2. I'm a preacher, so I'm going to take the time. I was trembling, much like I am right now. The officer pulled me over, asked me to get out of the car. Or he even told me what my infraction was. Pulled me over and told me to get out of the car, to sit on the sidewalk in front of Booker T. Washington Park. You know about Booker T. Washington? The officer searched my car. I didn't know about all my rights. Searched my car, my grandmama's car, sainted woman, who I believe would be here tonight, red all over.
Time.
I'm not done. Inside of me was embedded trauma that I don't want us to miss out on here, about the fear in every black young man's bones.
Mr. Phelps, I hate to cut you off, but if we want to continue outside, we can do that as well. But
if we didn't drove 5 miles from Dallas, Texas,
yes, sir.
you're going to hear us today, Councilman.
Okay.
We done heard the mayor, we done heard the police chief,
yes.
We done heard you. You're going to hear us today. With all of the bull crap that you heard, you're going to hear us today. All right?
Okay.
All right?
I'm more than willing to listen to you.
We don't want to do no backdoor meetings, no nothing. We want to hear it. Because y'all still making Tye Anders a suspect.
Okay.
You know what I'm
so
saying?
we're gonna get this under control right now.
Oh, all right.
Mr. Phelps.
Go ahead and speak.
Thank you. I'm gonna give you 1 more minute.
Come on.
1 more minute, so we can express what we want to express, and then we're gonna be done.
And you got more speakers here, sir.
I came because I filed a complaint. I wanted to share my story so that it could be told. My prayer, my wish this evening are a few things. A commitment for a police oversight board, needed.
Community policing starts with police. I take seriously our call in the United Methodist Church by John Wesley to do no harm. That's what this community needs, that commitment from you. Thirdly, we ask that you drop Tye Anders' charge and begin to articulate the trauma that I'm almost sure each and every one of these beautiful black bodies has each and every time they get in the car. I hope you do the right thing.
Thank you. Our last speaker that we're going to call on is Reverend Ed Mayberry.
Thank you for taking my concern. So to my community, and I say my community with a lot of passion, this is a community that I love, that I get to serve in, but it's more important, it's a community that I grew up in. I was raised in this community. I grew up by Washington Park, spent all of my life over there. And one thing that I wish I could pull out of my era when I grew up was accountability. And we made sure that we held police accountable, but accountability didn't start with the police officers. Accountability started in our own house, with our parents, and we were held accountable for, we didn't wait till the police started a league to learn how to work with little black boys. We did our own stuff. We started it in our community. We did it. And so I just want to say, I wish we could bring back that accountability, that when people in our community do good, we praise them ourselves. We don't look for the police officer or for anybody on stage to praise them. And when they do bad, we hold ourselves accountable. That's part of what we have to do as a community. And until we do that, where there is a lack of accountability, there will always be room to blame. So we're going to just continue to blame somebody else and all of that until we can do it. We can't look and expect for anybody else to do something that we've been looking for. So our challenge is for us as a community to come together, get more involved, do more in our community, and not expect for anybody else to do something that we want done in our community that we're not willing to do ourselves. So that's my statement. That's my comment on it. Thank you for allowing me to do that. I appreciate y'all and everybody for being here.
And thank you, Reverend. As I come to a close and turn it over to our councilman, I myself, as passionate I am about our community, I just want to interject the fact, ladies and gentlemen, we can make a difference. We can make our own difference. We don't know anybody that can do it for us, but we're going to have to speak up.
Let us speak. Let us speak. Let us speak. We ain't trying to hear that no more. If you don't keep on making him a suspect, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear no plan, no nothing.
Okay, so we're gonna move forward. I want to thank everyone. Sir, please. Sir, I'm giving you the respect. I understand that, sir. And we're gonna do things in order. We're gonna do things in order.
You know, the victim is
okay.
The victim is his grandmother. What
So.
You need to do is give her that police chief, because that police chief, what them officers.
Okay, so here we go. I'd like to thank everyone for being a part of this community conversation. So now you're going to disrespect me. So now you're going to disrespect me because we're trying to end this. I'm trying to end this, okay? I know his family, man. You don't know me, man. Listen to me. Sir.
Let's have some calm. Let's have some calm. I'm going to say a few words as we end. Right now, this meeting is more than May 16th. This is not just about May 16th. We're here to work beyond May 16th. The issues that we're dealing with weren't before May 16th. They're going to go beyond May 16th. Now, to everybody here,
it's a whole bunch of black men stand together and all that type of stuff. Black men can't stand together because they get targeted by police. They've been locked up every day in prison.
gonna need everybody to exit the building. We gotta get this place closed up. Everybody please exit the building. Thank you for coming. Please exit the building.
Esau, Jacob, there ain't no Esau. Esau, y'all better check out history. Y'all better check out history. My nephew now, every damn community across this country got somebody, black sympathizer, that want to come in these damn spaces and hold in front of these white folks when you get the opportunity to stand up for your damn people.
Everybody please exit the building.